Ladies and gentlemen, India is in the middle of the world's largest and most expensive election. Amidst the heat, the dust, the rhetoric and the dirt, a quiet question has cropped up in the Supreme Court of India. What if Nota wins? Of course, you can dismiss this as a hypothetical question, saying that Nota has actually never won. But the Supreme Court hasn't dismissed that question and instead has asked the Election Commission to respond to it. Nota, as you know, is your right to reject. It is your right to tell political parties that you're angry with them or the candidates they have fielded. But as it stands today, Nota is noted and counted, but not respected. So it really doesn't impact the outcome of the election. The plea filed by motivational speaker Shiv Khera in the Supreme Court challenges that disrespect. It says that fresh polls should be held on those seats where most votes are in favor of Nota. In fact, it has also asked the poll panel to ensure that candidates who have received fewer votes than Nota should be barred from contesting elections for 5 years. It has also sought framing of rules to ensure proper and efficient reporting and publicity of Nota as a fictional candidate by the Election Commission. Now, during the hearing, the petitioner's lawyer gave the example of Surat, where no polls will be conducted on May 7th because there was just one candidate left in the fray. The victory certificate has been handed over to the BJP candidate, even though there was another candidate in the fray, Nota. The petitioner has asked the poll body to hold polls even if there is one candidate in the fray, as voters have the right to opt for Nota. Nota is an option. Why weren't the citizens of Surat given that option? Batting for the voters' right to reject, the petitioner claimed that the Election Commission's lack of awareness and inconsistency on Nota has defeated its purpose over the years. It is treated as a right, all right, but it is disrespected by the Election Commission and many others who say it's a waste of a vote. Now, Nota, according to the petitioner, is an instrument of protest against the problematic political and electoral system in the country. But this potent weapon of the voter is constantly undermined. Just going back a little into history, ladies and gentlemen, Nota was introduced in 2013 by the Supreme Court in the hope that parties would field better candidates. That hasn't happened. But Nota continues to be a tool to protest as it was envisaged. But how many people actually choose Nota over candidates? Not many. Here are the numbers. In the 2014 Lok Sabha elections, Nota's vote share was about 1.08%. That declined in 2019 to 1.06%. Let's see where the numbers are after the 2024 elections. If you look at the statewide data for 2019, Lok Sabha elections again, Bihar recorded the highest percentage of Nota votes at 2%. This was followed by Andhra Pradesh and then Chhattisgarh. The 2017 Gujarat Assembly elections actually were a milestone moment for Nota. 5.5 lakh voters pressed the Nota button then, making it, ladies and gentlemen, the third largest party with a vote share of 1.8%. In fact, in 29 seats, the number of Nota votes was higher than the victory margin. Now, while we wait for the Election Commission's response to the Supreme Court notice, let me once again reiterate that the Election Commission recognizes the right to reject of a voter, but it doesn't respect it. While the Nota votes are counted, they are always declared invalid. How can a citizen's rejection be invalid? Is it time to give Nota its due respect? More importantly, is it time to stop saying that Nota is a waste of a citizen's vote? I'm going first to Shiv Khera, who's a motivational speaker, but also someone who's a petitioner in this case. He's joining us live this evening. Mr. Khera, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time here on Mirror Now. Can I ask you what prompted this petition in a country where most people say, Nota mat do, it's a waste of everyone's time and energy and effort?
Well, first of all, I must thank you and say one thing, that the way you have articulated the whole thing, I couldn't do it any better. You said it is recognized but disrespected. And that's the right word that you've chosen. Now, let me just quickly, if you give me permission. You see, today, the many media people have come back that almost 50% of the candidates in the parliaments have criminal records, and heavy criminal records. Now, why don't people go to vote? 50% people go to vote. And the balance say, well, why should I go to vote? None of these candidates are good, so who do I go to vote for? Now, if I don't go to vote, I'm not a good citizen. But if I do go to vote, who do I vote for? It's a dilemma. So what do? They either vote for caste, or they vote for the weakest criminal. Hear this. Or they vote for the weakest criminal. Now the weakest criminal won. See, now the weakest criminal, he's got power. Now that person becomes the strongest criminal. Now my question is this democracy? Does this represent you? Did you want him to win? This is the biggest mockery of democracy. And the most important thing is, this is not the way the country is going to move forward. This is not democracy at all. We call ourselves the largest democracy, but are we a good democracy? Absolutely not. Now, my point I'm trying to make is that when people don't go to vote, it is called passive protest. I don't go to vote. I won't go to vote because nobody's good. But if I do go to vote, who do I vote for? Now what we are saying through Nota, we are giving the citizens the right to actively protest. This is called active protest. Now look at this. You just quoted some statistics of 1%, 2%, and so on, and 500,000 votes and so on. You know something? Elections, governments can change on 1 to 2% vote. They can change completely the history of the nation. And today people don't go to vote because they say my vote is going to go to waste. They don't want them.
Okay.
So this is a real issue for the nation.
Mr. Khera,
and I think it's the biggest disservice not having it.
Mr. Khera, okay, no, so Nota exists. Since 2013, Nota has existed, right? Mr. Khera, my point is, you have gone to the Supreme Court asking them to answer a simple question. What happens if Nota wins? And that is exactly the notice that the Supreme Court has sent to the Election Commission to say what happens if Nota actually gets the maximum votes. But Mr. Khera, many people will say that's a hypothetical question. Why are you troubling the Supreme Court because of that? I mean, so far there has been not one single instance of Nota getting maximum votes in any case.
Ma'am, if the laws are faulty, if the judgments are faulty, it is toothless. How do you expect anybody to go to vote? It is useless. If supposing today look at this, if 90% people get vote as a Nota wins with 90% and you get only 1%, you won, Nota loses. Is this the way? What is it? It is a toothless to begin with. So that's an absurd thing. Our objective is that if none of the candidates are good, and Nota wins, they should be all disqualified for that one election from that one constituency, and right there. So automatically, one, it will open up doors for new and good people to come, and number two, it will force, I hear this one more time, it will force the political parties to field good candidates. Right now, even if they have criminal record, political parties do not shy away. They put them in. Oh, he has a good chance of winning even if he has a criminal record. And the whole constituency knows he's got a criminal record. Yet he wins. Is this called democracy? This is the biggest joke on democracy. So what we are doing is empowering the citizens. Choose good candidate. Only then we will see a better India and a better nation.
Mr. Khera, that is a great thought, but here's the thing. Since 2013, when Nota came into India's election process, the number of criminals getting tickets has only increased. This is ADR data. This is not my data. Since 2013, since Nota came into being, the number of people with criminal antecedents getting tickets has only increased. So that tells us that Nota hasn't really been effective in that sense. Mr. Khera, here's my question to you. Many people will say and ask, and I'm asking you this question as well, why elections are about electing someone, selecting someone, not rejecting someone. Then why press for Nota?
Right? No. First of all, you see the very fact that you said, in spite of Nota, the criminal candidates have increased, they have not decreased. You know, what does it tell you? It only tells you that we've got a toothless judgment. We have got a toothless Nota right now. That means it is badly needed right today. And if you continue, you'll keep getting criminals more and more and more. And the country will keep going to dogs. And is that what we are looking for?
Okay. No, that's certainly not what we are looking for.
If you had given truth to Nota today, you would have seen most people would be out today. Yeah.
Let's see, Mr. Khera, but thank you very much for joining us. And it'll be extremely interesting to see how the Election Commission actually responds to the Supreme Court of India on the question that you have posed. We'll leave it there for the moment, Mr. Khera. Thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast. A quick chat now with my guest this evening. Tushar Gupta is a political analyst. Lloyd Mathias is a business strategist. And Saeed Asad Abbas is a political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Lloyd Mathias, in its present form, should we all just agree that Nota is a toothless tiger? I mean, look at what happened to poor Nota when it came to Surat. In Surat, there is a lot of political ghapla that happens. By the end of that political ghapla and political intrigue, you have just one candidate in the fray, that's the BJP candidate. So even before Surat has to vote on the 7th of May, the Election Commission and the returning officer hands over the winning certificate to that one candidate in the fray, the BJP candidate. Everyone forgot that there is Nota as well, including the Election Commission. It's a toothless tiger. Should we just agree on that at least?
Thanks, Shreya. I think I'd like to compliment Mr. Khera for filing this petition. I think at one level, Nota gives us the fundamental right to reject all candidates, right? There's no going away from that. And I think that is positive. I do agree, however, that since its inception, 11 years ago, there hasn't been very large use of it. It's very, very small percentage of the population. So I guess that's also in terms of voter awareness. And at some level, I think it's citizens and civil society that need to communicate to political parties that we want to see fewer kind of people with bad antecedents getting into elections. Now, when we talk of criminals, you have to remember that the Election Commission debars convicted criminals from standing from elections. Of course, people who got charges can still stand, and that stays. So I think directionally, this move is right. Specifically on Surat, I do believe that the voters of Surat have been deprived of their right to reject a candidate. Right? The fact that there's no elections happening because there's only one valid candidate in the fray, I think is a little unfair. I think it would be okay if they still went ahead. And clearly the answer would be obvious that one candidate would get enough votes to easily win, even assuming there was a sizable amount. But in a sense, it deprives the electorate of Surat the fundamental right to reject that one candidate. And I think that really is a shortfall. I think that to an extent is what this case seeks to validate.
Okay. Mr. Khera, all of you are speaking about Nota having been introduced as a deterrent to terrible candidates, to candidates with the criminal antecedents, etc. But that's not the only reason why citizens become angry during the election process. For example, I may be someone who's not happy with the way, not happy with the election rhetoric from both sides, and I say, I don't like you and I don't like you. Not that the candidates who are standing in the fray from my constituency have any criminal antecedents. I simply don't like the way your party's talking, and I simply don't like the way your party is behaving or treating. So there are multiple reasons why citizens can be angry, right, Tushar Gupta? And Nota is a tool for them to register their anger. But unfortunately, in the system that we exist in, Nota, you note it, you note the protest, you note the anger, but you declare it none and void by the end of this election or any election. Is that even fair?
Good evening, Shreya. It's a very interesting debate we are
You have to
having
unmute
today.
yourself, Tushar.
And on a
Hi, good
lighter
evening.
note, on a lighter note, I think the only time Nota
Yeah,
will
I can hear you.
yeah, on a lighter note, the only time Nota will win is when you have three communists for people to choose from, but just on a lighter note. But it's a very important question you're raising. But see, in the current system we have, for Nota to win, or if Nota wins, would be like me going to a restaurant, not liking anything from the menu, telling the waiter I don't like anything, and expecting my stomach to be full. So that's the current system we have. Now, what inspired Mr. Khera to petition before the court was what happened in Surat. Now, within the current system, it's always fair, it's legal for the candidate to withdraw his or her nomination. What he does after that or what she does after that's a different question. But in this context, to find a solution, I think one solution can be, let's say, for Surat, which goes to polling on May 7th, I believe, there can be a provision where the election commission can extend the election date, where a provision can be made for an additional candidate or a new party or a new independent to file his or her nomination. That can be one solution. Now, to say, because I was listening to Mr. Khera, there will be people who would be disgruntled with both the parties or all the candidates on the ballot box. There would be many people like that. I would suggest that rather than going for Nota, the ones who can contest, people should come forward and present an alternate view, present an alternate thought process to the voters. That would also be very good for our democracy. He's right that political parties may not always feel the best candidates, but within the current system, they feel who they want to. The people vote for who they want to. But if there are certainly people or a group of people or a lobby of people who feel that people deserve better, I really hope they come forward. They become a part of a political process that inspires other parties, that inspires the voters to go out for them. But in this context, because he's talking about Surat, I think the best that can happen is you can push the election date perhaps to the final phase, perhaps as a bypoll, something on that cards. But saying that Nota should be considered as a practical solution, it's more of a philosophical discussion rather than a practical solution, to be fair.
Syed Asad Abbas, is this a philosophical discussion on Nota, given the fact that we know that there is never going to be a situation where Nota is actually the fictional candidate that wins? It's never happened. It's possibly not going to happen. Is this question even valid in a country like ours? I mean, what if, for example, everyone decides Nota is what they want to press? Then what happens to the elections? What happens to the country? Who runs it?
Shreya, as a matter of fact, I believe never say never. And I'll tell you why. I had the same question when I contested the 2018 elections here in my state of Karnataka. And of course, there were 27 candidates then, and the last one was Nota, none of the above. Of course, I was a candidate, and your guess is as good as mine who I voted for. The fact of the matter is, none of the above is indeed important. Couple of things where I also agree with Shiv Khera ji. First thing, if there is, of course, in the last 11 years, it's not happened. But if there is a possibility of that is happening, where the none of the above, if it is selected by the majority, there will be re-elections held. Also, when seeking his plea, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud has passed on the same to the Election Commission of India with respect to, he's also made his request that if there is a possibility or rules could be framed where there are candidates who've got lesser votes than the Nota or being debarred for a couple of years. It is important. I'll tell you why. 27 candidates during my personal experience, 13 of them had serial criminal cases. With respect to those, Nota could certainly play a mark because people could reject so that the same 13 people, candidates with criminal cases, do not appear for the next 5 years, whichever election it could be. The state, the Lok Sabha, or even the councillor elections. So therefore, that is an important rule to be made, which could confront. Also, as a matter of fact, with respect to Surat, there is a lot more that meets the eye, Shreya ji. The fact of the matter, I did read up, Congress candidate was disqualified because of the proposer's wrong signatures. The fact of the matter is,
no, we know that story. Syed, I'm not getting into that. We know that story.
I just need to make this important.
We know there was Golmaal there. We know that story. The reference I made to Surat was because a reference has been made to Surat in that petition, where they say Nota was a candidate. And you didn't give the citizens of Surat the right to vote for Nota. Essentially,
Absolutely,
you
absolutely.
disqualified that one
Shreya
fictional
ji,
candidate without any fault, without
Shreya
any
ji,
reason or
also,
logic.
10 seconds, Shreya ji, 10 seconds. Also, as a matter of fact, we need to understand if the Congress is disqualified, what about the other parties and the independent candidates? What was cooking between the Surat BJP candidate and others that everybody withdrew? What's cooking? Kya pak raha hai Surat mein? That is a question which the people of Surat are asking who want to vote on the May 7th. Why did the other candidates back out? What is cooking between the Surat BJP
No,
candidate? Kya khichdi pak rahi hai? People are asking this question.
तो वो खिचड़ी ही पक रही है, but that is not the khichdi we are discussing today. Lloyd Mathias, my last question to you. People tend to dismiss people who vote for Nota as losers. You're wasting a vote. That is what is often said to them. My point is, I do respect people who vote for Nota. I have not voted for Nota so far. I may be tempted to vote for it sometime in the future, but I have not done it so far. I respect people who vote for Nota because they have the option of just sitting at home, watching TV or going away for a long weekend to the hills. They don't do it. They stay back in their cities as responsible citizens, stand in that line in the sweltering heat, and then they cast their vote. This is not a passive protest. A passive protest never achieves anything. This is an active protest. But in our case, even an active protest doesn't achieve anything.
Hang on, Shreya. I think it makes sense, like I said, for a voter. I think every individual who's an eligible voter should go out and vote, even if it means voting with your feet, which is Nota. Having said which, I think today, unlike, let's say, 10, 20 years in the past, I think today voters have the right to make their view known outside of the electoral process, right? You have social media, you have lots of other ways. So if candidates generally feel dissatisfied with the quality, if electorates really feel dissatisfied with the candidates put up, I think they should go out and talk about it and broadcast it on social media. I think today you have every individual has his own medium, right? You can go and say your piece. But not voting, not acceptable. Voting Nota is absolutely a passive form of protest. Not the best option always, but clearly it's a great way to make voters' displeasure known to political parties and candidates in specific.
Okay, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. We decided to have this discussion because the matter came up in the Supreme Court and there were people speaking about Nota. Opinion is divided down the middle. Some people consider it a waste of time. Other people say this is a potent tool of protest. We need to use it. As I said, the jury is still out on it, but if you want to go vote for Nota, go vote for Nota. You want to go vote for the BJP, do that, or for the Congress, do that. But for heaven's sake, go out and vote. We'll leave it there for the moment. Tushar Gupta, thank you very much. Lloyd Mathias, thank you very much. And Said, thank you very much for joining us.